You know, one of the best ways to enjoy a pipe is just to load up a bowl of something you enjoy and not think at all. You just know what you like and you load it up and you relax and you smoke your pipe. But I have had many of you ask me, Kevin, how are you picking out all of these flavor nuances and blends? All I taste is hot air, or all I taste is an ashtray. Well, this is a video I've been wanting to make for you for a very long time. This is the Smoke With Me series after all, so load up a bowl, relax, settle in, and let's talk about it in great detail. Welcome back, Pipers. Hobbiton Piper Kevin here, coming to you from the Arkansas River Valley in America. And I've brought you inside my home today in this little reading nook where I can just lay some ground rules before we get started. I'm still going to go outside and smoke a pipe with you. You go ahead and get loaded up and start to enjoy your smoke, but I need to be able to lay a foundation of basic knowledge on this topic before we really get started. Everyone's sense of eyesight, hearing, taste, smell, it's all going to be a little bit different. For example, I don't see very well. I have had to have corrective lenses ever since I was 11 years old. And my hearing's not that great either. I played the drums for 10 years and went to way too many rock concerts as a kid as well. So I've had some hearing loss for sure over that. And as we get older, some of these things continue to decline, don't they? But there are also some senses, like our sense of taste, that we can actually learn how to do some things a little differently based on our knowledge and based on our techniques. We can learn some skills that actually improve our sense of taste and our ability to detect things. This is true with many types of tastings. And we're going to talk about some of those as it specifically relates to pipe smoking and your pipe blends. But one thing that I have always noticed that I have a strong sense of is my sense of smell. And the reason I know that is just because I'll be in a room full of people or family, and I will notice things before other people, whether it's, because it can be a blessing or a curse. It may be something that smells great in the kitchen, or it may be a dirty diaper across the room that no one else seems to be paying any attention to, or someone's wearing really strong perfume or cologne, or a very strong lit candle. These things can really cause me headaches because they smell so strong to me. So I do think I have a natural ability to smell that is likely higher than many, but I'm lower in other areas. So we're all different in that way. But like I said, there are things we can do to help improve our ability to taste, and that's good news. That's good news for everybody. But you don't have to be in the top percentile of your ability to taste or smell in order to enjoy pipe smoking. In fact, I would argue that it can sometimes be a negative to have that strong sense of taste or smell, because you're going to likely taste a lot of things in pipe blends that are unnatural, taste a lot of imbalance in a lot of blends that you otherwise might have really enjoyed. So don't be discouraged if you're not in that higher percentile, because you're going to find blends that you really enjoy regardless. So I think that most people that are sensitive in their smell and taste, they're likely going to end up gravitating towards those more subtle blends that do have those subtle nuances. But again, the good news is that most blenders, I believe, are likely blending with that 50 percentile in mind. You know, the average person and their ability to taste and smell. And they'll blend with that in mind, I think most always. So that's good news for you. But we're gonna build on this foundation. Just keep those things in mind as we move forward. And let's talk about some of the things that we can do to help improve your ability to detect flavors in pipe blends. Our tongue can really only detect about 5 basic things. It can tell us if something's sweet, if something is salty, if something's sour, bitter, and umami, which is savory, meaty. It's our sense of smell that's the key. That's the key that opens up this world of complex flavors. So let's define what flavor really is then. Flavor is the combination of the taste from your tongue and your sense of smell. Let me give you an example. This is my favorite ice cream brand. This is Yarnell's ice cream, and it is made in my hometown in Central Arkansas, Searcy, Arkansas. And this just happens to be some homemade strawberry I've got. And I'm going to get a little spoonful of this. Don't be jealous. You should be. This is some of the best store-bought ice cream you can get in the world, in my opinion. So let me taste the flavor of this strawberry ice cream. Immediately sweet. I'm crunching on a strawberry right now. Burst of strawberry fruit coming up through my nose. Wonderful, fantastic ice cream. Now what happens, let me let that go a little bit. What happens if I plug my nose? Now there's still gonna be a little of those neurons firing, and I may still taste a little bit of strawberry, but I bet it's exceptionally muted. Let's find out. And I'll be honest with you, maybe my experiment's wrong. So I'm gonna plug my nose, and then I'm going to eat this bite of ice cream. It's hard to breathe. So I can tell that there's something sweet in my mouth for sure. But that strawberry burst of flavor it's gone. Really, really muted in the background, but it's just gone. And that's how strong, wow, immediately, strawberry, when I let my nose go. That's how strong our sense of smell is to the flavor experience. That's important to remember. One more thing before I go outside. If you're talking about coffee tasting, wine tasting, whiskey tasting, whatever it might be, if you want to get the full taste experience, your nose has to be fully operational. It has to be clear. So if you have a stuffy nose, forget it. Your nose has to be fully operational. If you were to equate it to an automobile, your tongue, that's the wheels, but your nose, that's the engine. That's what's going to make it all work. Be sure to tell me what you're smoking it in. If you want to wait to the end of the video, that's fine. You may have other things you want to comment about. And if you're enjoying this so far, there's 3 things you can do to help me that are completely free. You can click the like button, you can subscribe, and share this with a friend if you know someone else that might enjoy this. So let's talk about some things we can do as steps for detecting maximum flavor in pipe blends. Now, there's something else I need to make sure everybody understands though. And that is there are no substitutes for experience. There's no shortcuts. If you really want to get maximum flavors out of a blend, you're gonna have to spend time with it. So that's very important, something to understand. Today, I'm smoking one of my very favorite blends that I have spent a lot of time with, and it's very nuanced to me, and that is Capstan Blue, Capstan Original Navy Cut Flake. Now, when it comes to wine tasting, or whiskey tasting, coffee tasting, these are all acquired tastes, okay? Think about the first time you ever sipped a glass of wine, if you can remember that. What did it taste like to you? Did it taste great? Or did it taste like you might be sipping on some egg dye at Easter? Or think about the first time you tasted whiskey. Wow, alcohol burn, right? Or the first time you tasted coffee. Very bitter, wasn't it? You see, these are acquired tastes because they have a baseline. They have an underbelly of a flavor that you have to get used to first. You have to desensitize yourself to that alcohol flavor of the whiskey, to that bitterness of the coffee, for example. And pipe smoking's no different. Pipe smoking has an underbelly of burning leaf. The baseline is you are burning leaf, and you're going to taste that. You're burning tobacco leaf. And so that's the baseline. You have to desensitize yourself over time to that. You have to acquire that taste. So when you're a brand new pipe smoker and you say, Kevin, all I taste is hot air. All I taste is a bunch of nothing. It's just hot air. It's just an ashtray. Well, you have to acquire a taste for pipe smoking in general. Just like you have to acquire a taste for wine or acquire a taste for coffee or whiskey. Very important to understand. It's a process. So we have to mentally desensitize ourselves to that baseline of burning leaf. Very important. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to do this every time you smoke a pipe. If you are serious, though, about getting maximum flavors out of a blend, you're going to have to prepare your palate. So that involves a couple things. First of all, you don't want to eat any fatty or oily foods beforehand. Like, you don't want to go eat ice cream like I just did. You want to avoid the fatty foods. No ice cream, chocolate, no cheeses, stuff like that. Just let's avoid the fatty, oily foods if we're really going to go into a tasting experience. And then let's make sure that we have something cool to drink that's going to cleanse our palate, something very neutral. I've just got some water here. Flat or sparkling water is great. Champagne is actually an amazing palate cleanser if you've never tried that. So having something as a palate cleanser is very important beforehand and actually throughout the smoke. Now, I'm not talking about pairings here. That's completely different. Coffee is a wonderful pairing with pipe blends. Some people enjoy pairing bourbon and other things, but I'm not talking about pairings. I'm talking about palate cleansers. So we're going to cleanse our palate with some water here, and we will also drink this cool drink throughout the smoke to keep our palate cool and just as a cleanser every now and then throughout. So get you some water or something that you want to use as a palate cleanser and something to keep your mouth cool as you proceed through the smoke. My neighbor has a team over here working on his fence. So if you hear a bunch of nail guns and electric saws, that's what's going on. But we're not going to let that stop us. Now I'm going to try to explain this next part without getting too scientific, without getting too in the weeds, but I think it's important for you to understand a little bit of the science around what's going on here. For maximum tasting results, we have to make sure that your leaf is not burning too hot and too fast. If your smoking cadence is too aggressive, then you're going to be igniting that leaf at a really high rate. You're going to be creating a lot of thick smoke, and you run the risk of losing all of the little subtle flavors of the blend that you could potentially enjoy. So we've got to slow down. I know I talk about this all the time, but many of the issues that new pipe smokers face is because they're just smoking too fast. That's why your bowl's getting too hot. That's why a lot of times you're just not tasting anything at all, because you're just burning through it so fast. You've got to learn to slow down, and about the time you think you've figured out that you've slow down some more. You've got to learn how to slow down. Now, there is a happy medium, because if you're not generating any smoke at all, well then that's not going to be good either. I mean, you've got to generate enough smoke to where the flavor has a chance to even reach your mouth and get into the air, obviously. But you don't want to smoke this super fast. You've got to slow down and relax and sip the pipe. We'll just relight as necessary. You don't have to keep this lit non-stop. You've got to get that out of your mind. That was a big turning point for me when I realized I don't have to keep this lit from start to finish down to white ash. Forget that concept. Just light the pipe, sip on it. If it goes out, like mine I'm sure just did, we'll just relight it. We don't care. We don't care about relights, okay? Now, the goal here, it really is science. So hear me out. Hear me out. I'll try not to make it too complicated. Your mouth temperature is roughly 98 degrees, right? Your mouth is about 98 degrees. So what we want is the temperature of the smoke to be less than 98 degrees when it hits our tongue. If you are puffing on your pipe like a freight train, you have no shot of that ever happening. It's going to be hitting your mouth too hot, and you're not going to be able to taste what you need to be tasting. It's just a fact. It's science. So slow down. Slow down. Let's see if we can get a cool smoke, what we call a cool smoke, which really just means anything less than 98 degrees. Let's get that into our mouth. A cool smoke. That's when we can create the perfect environment for what's known as volatiles, which are chemical compounds within the smoke to surface. And when that happens, those volatiles are what our brain will translate into these smells and flavors. So we got to slow down. Because what we want to do is we want to slow cook the leaf. We want to slow cook what's in this bowl. We're going to slow cook around this ember, this cherry, as it's sometimes called. A scientist would call it the coal. We want to slow cook the leaf that is around that cherry. Some experienced pipe smokers get so good that they can actually manipulate the cherry they can manipulate the ember and push it around where they want to slow cook, to slow burn the leaf around it. So if you're an experienced pipe smoker and you're still just tasting hot air, that's likely because your cherry is burning too hot and you're burning up all those volatiles before they can reach your senses. So we want to slow cook the leaf. So for example, the volatiles in an orange or a lemon, they're very strong and you can smell them, right? You can smell those volatiles, and your orange, your lemon's not on fire. It's just natural. Those volatiles are there. And so we can detect those really easily. So we want to create the volatiles within the smoke itself and have them reach us. And there's no shot of that happening if we're smoking too fast. You will receive very few. You'll receive some, but you will not receive all the volatiles that could potentially show up if you slow down. So reason one that your leaf is too hot and burning too fast is your cadence. But there's another reason. The second reason that can happen is that your blend is too dry. So for blend tasting, we do not want our blend to be exceptionally dry. If it's crispy, if it's crunchy, when you play with it in your fingers, if it's crunchy like cardboard, your tobacco oils are gone, and it's going to burn too hot and too fast. We need to have those tobacco oils on the leaf, and we need some moisture on the leaf so that it has a proper burn rate. So sure, a super dry leaf, yeah, it'll stay lit easier, of course. It'll stay lit easier. But you're rarely going to get your best flavor experience from super dry, crispy, fast burning tobacco leaf. That's rarely going to be your best flavor experience. Now, it can be too wet. You can get some blends that do need to dry a little bit, but don't take it too far. If you take it too far, then it's just going to go up in smoke, as they say. Have you ever seen an old, dried up Christmas tree put on a fire pit? If you were to take an evergreen Christmas tree and set it on fire, it would burn. It would burn nice and slow and give off some smoke. But if you set a dry, crispy, dead, old, been sitting around for a few months Christmas tree on a fire pit, do you know what happens? Well, I do. And I've got a video of it. Take a look at this. The video does not do it justice.
I love the sound. The sound is great. Listen to that. Oh, that was...
That fire was so hot, people were running from it before it went out. Now's a good time to take another sip of water if you haven't already. Keep your mouth cool. Cleanse the palate. Let's talk about how flavors manifest throughout the smoke. That's important. See, these volatiles we've been talking about, they may not be wildly present throughout the entire smoke because we're talking about a blend here. And this blend consists of different components, different leaf types. And as that ember burns through the bowl, through the tobacco bed rather, it's going to consume little pieces of leaf. And that's your opportunity to receive some of those nuances that the volatiles can provide. So as the cherry, the ember, the coal, as it consumes a little piece of leaf, a volatile, a flavor nuance may show up and be gone in a flash because it's consumed, it's gone. That little piece of leaf's gone. It may have had some magic in it. And you'll detect these little flavor nuances. They'll manifest themselves throughout the smoke as you go. But you've got no shot, again, of ever detecting those if you're smoking too fast. You've got to slow down and let the ember do its work. Let the ember do its work and see what it can give you. You may get these little wisps of chocolate, a little wisp of vanilla, or of something vegetal like tomato, or something floral. Hay, citrus. If you're smoking too fast, it's it's all burning up. Just all burning up too fast. You don't have a chance. You got to let it do its work. You got to slow down, relax. Now we need to start talking about how to start putting a name to some of these flavors that we can experience. There's something I want to show you inside. So I'm going to put my pipe down for a minute. You keep smoking and enjoying your pipe. And I'm going to go show you something inside to describe this next part. So let's assume that we have followed the advice up to this point, and we're experiencing some of those nuances now. Well, how do we name and categorize those nuances? That's going to be very personal to you because it's going to be dependent on your life experiences, what memory it triggered, because these nuances are just reminiscent of something. So how do you categorize all these? Well, this is my cigar logbook. It says, life is too short to smoke bad cigars. And within this logbook, every time I smoke a new cigar, I will take its label and I will glue it in here and I will write all about that cigar and my experience with it. This is just something fun that it was recommended to me that I do when I started smoking cigars, and I'm so glad because I can go back and look at all these different cigars that I've smoked over time and read what I thought about them. It's really fun. But anyway, on each of these pages is a flavor wheel. It looks like this, and you can see that around this wheel are all these different category types, and they say bitter, spicy, earthy, woody, nutty, creamy, chocolate, toffee, sweet, floral, sour, toasted, fruity, herbal, leather, and oily. Those are major categories of a flavor wheel. So I will go through each of these as I'm smoking, and I will think to myself, do I taste anything nutty here? And if so, I'll make note of that. Do I taste anything fruity? Do I taste anything floral, etc.? And if I do, then over time and over several bowls and studying the blend and in different pipes and etc., then I will try to narrow that down and say, okay, well, if I taste something fruity, what fruit am I tasting? Am I tasting apple? Am I tasting peach? Am I tasting cherry? And on you can go. If it's something woody, am I tasting like a green wood, or am I tasting like something that's like rotting in the forest, or am I tasting campfire? And then if it's something like vegetal, am I tasting tomato here? And it's not going to be exactly like a tomato, but it's going to be reminding me of that. It's going to be reminiscent of. So that's how I normally approach flavor nuances, is I will approach it from a flavor wheel perspective. Now, if you if you were to look online, you would find flavor wheels that are much more detailed than this. It would take the fruity category and expand it by a bunch. And for each of these, on around it would go. But once you are able to start defining in your mind what a volatile reminds you of and categorizing that mentally, then when you go to the next blend, that volatile may show up again. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's this. And that's what I equate that to. And that's how a person is able to kind of dissect these blends and find the flavors that they like and maybe flavors that they don't like. So I would encourage you to focus on the primary and secondary flavors of a blend first. You will see reviewers out there or reviews out there that will name 20 different things that they are experiencing in a blend, and maybe they are. But I would encourage you to focus, for example, with pipe blends, you're normally going to have an earthy, woody character because you are burning leaf after all. You're going to have that tobacco leaf in there somewhere, we hope. And so I would focus on that. What are the earthy, woody flavors that I'm experiencing? Maybe some grassy notes. All these things come from what actually is tobacco leaf. So see if you can define what am I experiencing from the tobacco leaf itself. And then many tobacco blends, most in fact, will have some sort of topping or casing. So you may get, especially with aromatics, you're going to get, some vanilla, you might get some honey, you might get some cherry or rum, depending on the topping that they have added to it. Can you detect that? So you're basically dividing this into what am I tasting that is tobacco and what am I tasting that's not tobacco? So you've got, these are all the flavors that are tobacco and these are the flavors that are not, but I'm able to detect them and define them mentally. That's what I'd encourage you to do. Now you can go deeper. You can go to a tertiary layer, the third layer and beyond. And over time, I think you'll be able to pick out some of those as well. But starting out, see if you can just pick up the primary and secondary layers of a blend. That's a great start. So we've talked about how to analyze and categorize nuances from a flavor wheel perspective. Another way that you can analyze the various flavors that you may be experiencing is actually from a leaf component perspective. You can actually ask yourself, what does bright Virginia taste like? What does red Virginia taste like? What does Perique and different Burleys and Latakia and Dark Fired Kentucky, what do those components taste like? And you'll begin to realize that all these components combined, along with the way they're processed and the toppings and casings that may be used, and of course the age of the blend, all this is going to affect the overall flavor profile. But here's a challenge for you. Pick one of your blends that you enjoy that has a lot of components and physically separate those components onto like a leather mat or just a table, it doesn't matter. Separate those components visually and then just smoke those individual components. You will learn so much by doing that. What do those individual components taste like and bring to a blend? And you may even figure out the components that you really love that way as well, and some that you don't. But I encourage you to try that. It's a very interesting experiment and you'll learn a lot. So what pipe do I use when I am really wanting to just focus on tobacco tasting to detect as many flavors within a blend as I can? What pipe do I use? Well, you've been looking at it off and on throughout this video. This is a Caribbean Pirate clay pipe, and I did a full pipe story on this. I'm going to refer you now to that. I'm going to show you a little clip from that video to talk about the importance of clay pipes when it comes to tobacco tasting. But what a clay pipe does so well is it provides a very flavor neutral smoking experience. And what that does is it allows you to really tune in to the tobacco flavor itself. The true flavors and notes of just the tobacco that you might miss otherwise. Or flavors that might have been hidden or changed in a briar, for example. The clay pipe is very resistant to ghosting. And ghosting that's just where the flavors of one tobacco that you smoke in a bowl, they stick around in the pipe and carry over and infect the next bowl of tobacco that you smoke out of the same pipe. And clay pipes are very resistant to that. But blenders will often use clay pipes to analyze the individual tobacco leaf components, and then also their finished blends, because of that neutrality that you get when you smoke out of a clay pipe. You're just tasting the tobacco. So this is a tool. This is a tool for enhanced tobacco tasting. And many tasting enthusiasts, they will swear by clay pipes for this, and they'll say, if you really want to study just the tobacco, you need to put it in a clay pipe, spend some time with it. So you may see me doing this now on occasion as I am not only preparing for reviews, but maybe giving reviews as well. When I was much younger, I created a music album with a couple of friends, just for fun. We never had any aspirations to be rich and famous or sell it, but we wanted to create some music, and we recorded music. And we weren't good enough to play it all at once live and make a recording of that. So what we did is we bought a recording device that allowed us to record everything on tracks. So what we would do is we would record the entire drum track first, and then on another track we would record the bass guitar, rhythm guitar. Our lead guitarist would then lay down his track, and eventually lead vocals, backup vocals. Everything was recorded on a separate track. And what that allows us to do is we could then isolate each track, and we could determine what parts of it weren't perfect, re-record those parts, until finally you get it the way you want it, and you play it all back as one big song, and then you can use your mixing board, and you can mix it however you need to make the song sound exactly as you want it to sound. Well, this clay pipe, in a similar way, it's the closest I've been able to come to actually feel like I'm isolating the tracks, if that makes sense. Can I isolate certain parts of a blend and study those mentally? But for those who are really into tobacco tasting, or you want to try to take your tasting skills to the next level, I believe clay pipes are still very much an important tool today in the 21st century. So this is just a tool. It's a tool for tobacco tasting. It's not something that you're going to want to use long term for like your best smoke. Eventually you're going to want to move your blends into your favorite briar or cob, which the briar and the cob, they're going to impart their own sweetness and their own nuances to the blend. That's part of the fun, is finding what blends marry well to what pipes to give you the best flavor experience. There's one more element to this that I want to cover today, and then we'll be done, and that is the power of the retrohale. A retrohale is where you take the smoke into your mouth and exhale it through your nose. You don't inhale, you just exhale it through your nose. Now, I would do this sparingly because it can be too much. It can certainly be overwhelming. Some blends, it's just not even fun at all. Other blends, though, it can kind of be that jump start, that kick in the pants to your senses to wake you up and turn you on to a certain volatile that exists within the bowl. But again, wouldn't use it all the time. Certainly something to throw in on occasion, though, throughout your smoke. Little baby retrohales, I call them, are very effective. Something to try. I think you'll get some good success out of that. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for being understanding of all the noises around me in the neighborhood today. We got planes flying overhead, we got people building fences, we got dogs barking, we got a whole life going on here. So thank you for going through that with me and sticking with me here to the end. Thank you so much to my Super Thanks supporters, our fellowship of supporters, we're calling them now. Thank you so much. You can read more about that in the description below. And come join me over on Instagram. I'll post some things there between videos here. So until we talk again, go enjoy some good food, good drink, and a good pipe. Happy tasting. Here's some bonus footage for the die-hard viewers out there that are still with me. I went to my local cigar shop yesterday, and I was just looking through some of the pipes there, and I saw a little pamphlet. I used to go to, when I was a kid, this old country church 3 times a week, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and we had this rack on the wall that had all these little pamphlets of biblical topics that you could take home and read at your leisure, printed on these really cheap colored pieces of paper. Well, there was a pamphlet in the cigar shop called How to Smoke a Pipe. No, Learn to Smoke a Pipe. It says a how-to for novice pipe smokers. Well, if you don't remember anything about this video, remember this. When it comes to tobacco tasting, remember, take it slow. Hot pipes are not as tasty. We'll see you next time.